Good morning. All right. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are able to hear me and also see me now. Shall we start the session? Yes, I hope all of you are doing well. Okay. So you will have accounting sessions for your CA Foundation December attempt today and tomorrow. So for 2 days, we will be having these sessions. So what can you expect out of this? And what am I going to do in these 2 days just before your exams, right? On 31st, you will have your CA Foundation accounting paper. So 4 days away from it. So 4 days before the exams, what am I going to do? What can you expect in these 2 days in the class, in these sessions, in these marathon sessions? What can you expect? So number one, we will be doing some important questions, some questions that I feel are important from the exam perspective. Quickly, I will be doing it. And I'll also be telling you what you should be seeing at the end of the day or after the class during the gaps. You have breaks in between. So, what you should be studying during that time. And I'll also be telling you as to what are the different important last moment things that you have to do with regards to accounts. So that is going to be a summary or a quick go through of all the syllabus. And what I intend to do is the evening sessions, if it is possible, will be purely major instead of saying purely. I would like it to be a doubt solving session and uh, general query solving session in the evenings. So totally we have three sessions scheduled every day. So the evening sessions I wanted to be doubt solving. If you have any questions, any doubts, I will be solving those specific questions on request from you. So solve this question. So solve that question. So questions like that will be solved in the evening session. Let's see if we can do it for the whole 2 hours or 1 hour in the evening. That is my intention now. So quickly, starting with the not waste much time. We'll directly start with the revision sessions. So the agenda first, what am I going to pick up? So the first part, the first discussion point today, morning session will be the special transactions chapter, right? Special transactions. We know what is special transactions. We have five different units under that from your ICI materials. I'm going to pick up consignment first. So quickly, let's brush through consignment. I hope you've joined the session. I hope everyone is listening. I hope I can't see your chats here, so you will have to. I can see it only a little later, so you can just put your chats. I'll read that. Okay, so consignment accounting. Let's start with it without wasting much time. So, in consignment accounts, very likely to come for your exams this time. It comes every other attempt. Consignment accounts appears in the exams, and it is the last attempt for consignment accounts. So it won't be there in the next exam. So therefore, it is important. Uh, Not just that, it keeps coming every almost every other attempt. You have a 10-mark question on consignment. Very likely to come this attempt too. So consignment accounts as well, what appears for the exam is in the books of the consignor. So there are two parties involved over here, right? So you have the consignor and you have the consignee. So the consignor's books is what is very important from the exam perspective. Only that has been tested so far. In the consignor's books also, we have two ledger accounts to be done. One is the consignment account and the other one is the consignee's account. So the consignment account is prepared with the perspective of calculating the profit and loss from consignment. So this is the perspective, or this is the purpose why the consignment account is prepared. To calculate the profit or loss. And then the consignee's account is also prepared by the consignor. This is to calculate the settlement, whatever the settlement is to be done with the consignee. So that is why we prepare this account. So how much balance is to be received from the consignee. For that calculation, this consignment account, consignee's account is prepared. So it's a personal account. Consignment account is a nominal account. It is just like a trading account, profit or loss account. So a consignment account is similar to that. It is calculated with the perspective to calculate the profit or loss from the consignment business. So now, how does it work? Uh, we will do it directly through the problem. I'll solve the problem and I will discuss that. But before that, some important points in consignment that we must be knowing. Number one, what is this business about? How does this work? Simple, in very short sentences, I'm going to tell you. Just listen properly, carefully. So there is this consigner who wants to sell his goods, to the end customer, but he won't do it directly. So what he'll do is he will send the goods to the consignee. The consignee will sell it to the customers. So the consignee works as an agent. He is an agent in this particular transaction. So this guy, the consigner is the principal and the consignee is an agent. So this is a typical consignment transaction. Now here, consignee just receives the goods from the consigner and then finds customers for those goods and gives it to the customers, sells it to the customers. So this is how it works. It's not like wholesale retail business, it's agency business. So consigner is selling his goods to the end customer through the consignee. That's all. For the consignee services, consignee is going to charge commission. So there are three types of commission. How many types of commission? Three types. So what are the three types of commission? The first one is the ordinary commission or the normal commission. So ordinary commission is generally paid as a fixed percentage or of the as a fixed percentage of the total sales. And then you have the del credit commission. So del credit commission, why do we pay del credit commission? Del credit commission is paid because the consigner does not want to take the bad debts, the responsibility of the bad debts. He wants to shift that responsibility to the consignee. So generally, all the risks and rewards attached to the goods is with the ownership, right? So the owner is the consigner itself. Till the goods are ultimately sold to the customer, the consigner itself owns the goods, and then the ownership gets transferred like this. Once the customer is found, that is when the ownership gets transferred. The consigner transfers the ownership to the customer directly. Now, what may happen is if there's any risks attached to the goods, if there's any loss, or if there is any accidental loss, or if there's any loss during in the consignees go down before the goods are sold, right? Before the ownership is transferred, if there's any loss, that is on the consigner. Consigner has to bear it. And even after the goods are sold, then we don't recover the amount. So generally, it will be borne. We call it as bad debts, right? The goods are sold, but the customer is not paying up. So we call that as bad debt. So even in that case, the losses of the consigner itself, because he's the owner of the goods, the ownership got transferred to the end customer directly. In such cases, also the consigner will have to bear the loss. So to avoid that loss, what the consigner might do is he might transfer the loss, that responsibility, to the consignee by paying him one additional commission. Okay, so that additional commission is known as the del credit commission. So I will talk about the journal entries very soon, but this is how it works. Next, you have the overriding commission. This is to encourage the consignee to sell at a higher price. So whatever extra money he generates through the sale of goods, on that additional money, overriding commission is paid by the consigner. So totally three types of commission. Now, sir, tell us bad debts. How does bad debts work over here? We get confused with regards to bad debts. Okay, so there are two cases for bad debts. Okay, there are two cases for bad debts. One is DCCE, recording of bad debts. Recording of bad debts. How does bad debts work? So, two accounting treatments for bad debts. One, from consignor's books, I'm talking about, just consignor's books we're discussing now. So, one is when DCC is paid, and the other one is DCC is, okay, let's do it like this: DCC is not paid, and DCC is paid. So when the DCC is not paid, it's our responsibility, that is the consignor's responsibility to bear the loss. So he reverses the sales entry. Okay, the sales entry is consignment account is credited and consignee's account is debited. That's the sales entry. Consignee, we have a right to receive money from the consignee. So consignee's account is debited and it is the consignment income. So consignment account is credited. Now we have to reverse that entry. We have to reverse that entry, and the reversal will be consignment. We will have to reverse our sales entry. Consignment account is debited and consignee's account is credited. This is the entry we pass when DCC is not paid. So we are booking this as our loss. Our loss. So this is the journal entry to book it as our loss. If the DCC is paid by us to the consignee, then it's not our loss. We don't have to reverse the sales. So no entry for bad debts is passed in the books of consignor. So this is how the accounting works for bad debts. I hope this is clear. I hope this is very clear. Everyone has understood this. So this is how the accounting for bad debts works in the books of the consignor. Okay. Now, nothing else. We'll directly do a couple of questions. Let's gain some clarity over this. So I'm going to pick this question up. Ganpat of Nagpur. Pay attention to the question. Everything is solved in this question itself. We're going to go through everything through this one question itself. So pay proper attention when I do this. Ganpat of Nagpur consigns 500 cases of goods costing 1,500 each to Rawat of Jaipur. So here we have one Mr. Ganpat and one Mr. Rawat. So Ganpat of Nagpur. So this guy is known as the consignor. Consigns 500 cases of goods costing rupees 1,500 each. So this is the value of consignment, okay? To Rawat. Rawat is the consignee of Jaipur. Ganpat pays the following expenses in connection with the consignment. So Ganpat is paying these expenses. Ganpat is the consignor, remember? So Ganpat is paying carriage, he's paying freight, he's paying loading charges. Rawat sells 350 cases at 2,100 per case and incurs the following expenses. So Rawat is the consignee. He is at Jaipur. He has received the goods. He has received 500 units. No, we don't know how many units is received. They have not mentioned yet. So what they've told us, he's selling 350 units. So far, they're saying about the sales, 350 units at 2,100 per case, and incurs the following expenses. So clearing charges, warehousing and storage, packing and selling expenses, all of this he has incurred. It is found that 50 cases were lost in transit. Okay, so he's not received all 500 cases. 50 cases were lost in transit, which is an abnormal loss. So transit means on the way. So when the goods were being transported from Ganpat's godown in Nagpur, in Maharashtra, to Jaipur, which is in Rajasthan. So on the way, some units were lost. How many units were lost? 50 cases were lost, is what they are saying, uh, which is an abnormal loss. And another 50 cases were still in transit. So this has not been received. by the consignee. So how many units did the consignee receive then? 500 cases were sent, 50 cases were lost in transit, 50 cases are still in transit. So he has received how many units then? He has received 400 units. 400 cases has been received by the consignee, right? So Rawat is entitled to a commission of 10% on gross sales. Gross sales is total sales. Drop the consignment account and Rawat's account in the books of Ganpat. In the books of Ganpat. Okay, fine. So we are supposed to do the consignment account and consignee's account in the books of the consignor. A classic question. So first we will do the consignment account quickly. So in the books of the consignor, who is Ganpat here. Okay. Now, first thing, what should we do? We have to write the cost of the goods. So if the invoice price is given, we write the invoice price. If the invoice price is not given, we directly write the cost price. So here invoice price is not given. So I write the cost price. The cost price is 500 into 1500. So two goods sent on consignment. Dates are not given. Rupees 1500 into 500 units. Right? 1500 rupees into 500 cases multiply. Five hundred into 1500 is 7,50,000. Next, what do they say? They say Ganpat pays the following expenses. So these are all consignor's expenses. So we have to add up everything and we have to again debit it. Whatever the expense is there, cost is there, is to be debited in this account, consignment account. This is the consignment account. So to cash for all the consignor's expenses, we say to cash 15,000, 45,000, and 15,000. So in bracket inside you can write carriage, freight, and the loading charges. Write the bifurcation. You have 15,000, 45,000, and 15,000. 75,000 in the amount column. Then they have told us that Rawat sells 350 cases at 2,100 per case. So by this is sales. So consignee is doing the sales for us. So we debit the consignee's account. What is the name of the consignee here? Rawat, right? So by Rawat's account. 2,100 is the sales price. Into how many units does he sell? He sells 350 units. So 2,100 into 350 is 7,35,000. That's the total sales. Will be 7,35,000. They have told that he has incurred the following expenses. So these are consignee's expenses. Again, it's an expense relating to consignment. Whatever are the expenses relating to the consignment is to be debited to this account. So this is also expense relating to consignment. So we debit this account and we say to Rawat's account. Rawat is incurring it. So Rawat's account. We have clearing charges. Warehousing and storage. Packing and selling. $18,000, $25,000, $7,000. Total this up. That's 50,000, right? Okay. It is found that 50 cases were lost in transit, which is an abnormal loss, and another 50 cases were still in transit. Rawat is entitled to a commission of 10% on gross sales. Okay, we will write the commission to Rawat's account. Again, it is an expense relating to consignment. We have to pay commission to the consignee. So to Rawat, 7,35,000 is the total sales. On that, 10% they have told. So 73,500. Okay. Then they have told us it is found that 50 cases were lost in transit, and okay, we'll do that. Working notes for that. So should we do the working notes in the exams? Can we do it in brackets or can we do it on a calculator and write it directly? No, sir. You'll lose marks if you do that. You have to show separate working notes for all of this. You have to prepare. It's part of your answer. Working notes will form a part of your answer. So it's very important you draw the working notes. Otherwise, even if your ultimate answer is right, you will not get a full marks. They will deduct marks if they don't see working notes in your paper. So drawing working notes is very important. And neatly and legibly. Working notes is not rough work. It's not rough work. It is proper answer needs to be presented in a particular way. You have to present it like that. Okay. So working notes. Under this, the first one, calculation of loss in transit. We're calculating the loss in transit. So I advise all of you, just before I start the working note, that you also do it with me. You also be here, do it. We finish consignment. I'll do three questions, three important questions from the exam perspective. I'll be doing three important questions from consignment. So do it with me. Sit here and don't just listen. Just pay a lot of attention and finish it off. If you have any doubts, any questions, you can put it on the chat box, although I can see it only a little late. So I will solve your questions. I'll solve your doubts if you have any doubts. So therefore, do it. We'll finish off these important chapters, around 20 marks, 15 to 20 marks worth portions. I'll be doing it in the 2-hour session now. So pay attention quickly. We're going to go through it. We're going to do some important questions as well. So please be there and do it with me and understand what we're doing. If you have any questions, you can ask me. So this is a very nice opportunity that you are having a teacher alongside you 4 days before your exams. So don't waste that opportunity. 4 days, 5 days to the exams. I'm still here talking to you and also here to solve your questions, doubts. Don't panic. If you have any things, you can ask, right? I'll be available to solve all your doubts. So, calculation of loss in transit. How many units are lost in transit? They have told 50 cases. So, write that in brackets 50 cases. Now, we have to first write the cost of the units lost. Cost of the cases lost. So each case was costing 1,500. Be careful here. Don't write random numbers. Know what you're writing. You have to write the cost, okay? Not the sales price. Don't write the sales price of 2,100. Write the cost price. 1,500 is the cost price per unit. So totally, how many units have we lost? We've lost totally 50 units. So 1,500 into 50. 75,000 is the cost of the 50 units which was lost. Then to this, add the consignor's expenses, if any. So consignor has incurred some expenses, so add that. You can write like this, proportionate expenses, and under that consignor's expenses. What is the total consignor's expenses incurred? The total consignor's expenses, this 75,000. But this 75,000 was not incurred on only these 50 cases, right? This was incurred on all the consigned goods, which was 500 cases. He spent carriage, freight, loading charges on 500 units. Out of those 500 units, 50 have been lost. So we have to allocate it to the 50 units, which is lost. So 75,000 into 50 divided by 500. So when you divide 75,000 divided by 500, you get per unit. So multiply it with 50. So what is this? This is 7,500. Consignee also has incurred some expenses, but. Should we allocate the consignee's expenses to this? The answer is no. So why shouldn't I allocate the consignee's expenses to the loss in transit? That's because the consignee has not yet received the goods, right? So consignee will clear the goods or he will store those goods, he will pack those goods which he has received. In fact, packing is only on the goods that he's selling that to. So he has not received these goods at all. These 50 cases have not been received by the consignee at all. So do not allocate the consignee's expenses. Never allocate consignee's expenses to the goods lost in transit. To the goods lost in transit, we should not allocate the consignee's expenses. I hope that's clear. I hope all of you have understood that. So I'm not going to allocate the consignee's expenses over here. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to calculate the value of the loss. Value of loss 82,500. Have we recovered anything from the insurance company? Has the insurance company given us anything? In this question, it's not given, so nothing. Stop over here. This is the value of the loss. This will be taken to P&L because no insurance claim is there over here. So 82,500 is the total loss, which will be booked to the profit and loss account. So here you can write by abnormal loss in brackets P and L. Or you can directly write P and L account also. By P and L is also fine. On the credit side, it is to be written. It is to be written on the credit side of the consignment account. So this is it. Then you have 50 cases are still in transit. So always remember there's one hidden adjustment in all the consignment questions, that is the stock valuation. The stock will be valued. We will have to value the consignment stock, which will be credited over here in the consignment account. We'll have to credit it. So here there is stock in transit also, right? So there are two types of stock in this question. One is stock in transit, and we also have to calculate if there is any stock left with the consigner or the consignee. Consignee yatra intaru stocks ಉಳಿದಿದ. Is there any stock remaining with the consignee? We will have to calculate that also. So for this, I'll do working note 2, calculation of value of consignment stock. Very simple formula you will have to write. Remember this formula. So it's like an equation you have to write. First, you have to write the units sent. 500 cases were sent. Okay. In this, you have to minus whatever was lost. 50 cases was lost in transit. Then you have to write stock in transit. So this is stock in transit. It is still in transit. 50 cases. You have to take a pause over here and see how many units are received by the consignee. 400 units are received by the consignee. There's a very important number. You have to take a pause over here and then you have to go on minusing how many units are sold by him. 350 units are sold by the consignee, right? So these are the number of units sold. And there's one more type of stock we get after this. 50 units, which is stock in consignee's godown. So we've found two types of stock here. One is the stock in transit, which is 50 units, and stock in the consignee's godown, which is also 50 units. So we have total 100 units of stock. We will have to value it differently. Okay, we can't value 100 units together. Why can't we value 100 units together, sir? Very simple, logical. On these units, right? These units, the stock in transit, the consignee has not incurred any expense. There is no expense incurred by the consignee on these 50 units because he has not received it yet. The consignee has not received these 50 units yet. So consignee would not have incurred any expenses on these 50 units, the stock in transit ones. But he would have incurred his expenses on the units which is there in his godown, the whatever has reached him, right? He would have incurred expenses on those 50 cases. So therefore, the valuation will be different. The value will be different. Although it's 50-50 cases in both here, we will have to value it differently. So for that, you can draw a simple single table. You don't have to draw two tables, just one table, do it together. One is for stock in transit and the other one is for stock in the consignee's godown. We go down, consignee go down. It's understood. I'm just writing stock and go down. Okay. First, we have to write the cost. If the invoice price is given, we value the stock at invoice price. In this question, I don't have the invoice price, so that is why I'm valuing it at cost itself. Cost of the goods first. So how many cases are there? This is 50 units. This is also 50 units. Okay. So 50 into 1,500, right? That's 75,000 each. Next, add to this proportionate expenses. Proportionate expenses will be added. First one is the consigner's expense. What is the total consigner's expense? It was 75,000 rupees. So we have to proportionate it. It's going to be the same calculation. 75,000 divided by 500 units. You will get per unit, multiply it with 50 units. So you get it for 50 units. So 75,000 into 50 by 500. You get 7,500. 75,000, the same calculation. 7,500. Okay. We will have to allocate the consignees expenses as well, but that will be allocated only for the stock and the consignees go down because he wouldn't have incurred, as I mentioned earlier, as I just told you, he wouldn't have incurred any expenses on the transit stock, right? Which is not received by him. So only for the stock and his go down, we will have to allocate consignee direct expense that too. That this you have to remember. We're not going to allocate all the consignees expenses, only the direct expenses. So what do you mean by direct expenses, sir? Direct expenses are, or they're also known as non-recurring expenses. So expenses which don't recur, which don't repeat. So non-recurring expenses, one-time expenses, whatever are there, that is to be allocated. Direct expenses, simple thumb rule, how you do it even in the case of trading account, direct, indirect, we do no trading account, P&L account when we do. So those expenses which are incurred till the goods reach the go down. That's the thumb rule. So till it reaches the go down of the consignee, whatever expenses we have incurred, that's known as direct expense. So in this case, now we have incurred clearing charges. So that is a direct expense. Okay, clearing charges is a direct expense. Warehousing, storage is not a direct expense because that is incurred after the goods are kept there. Packing, selling is at the point of sale. So that is also not direct. So these both are indirect. We write it in the consignment account, but it is not used for any allocation. So only this one will need allocation. The clearing charges, which is 18,000 rupees, will be allocated to the stock and consignee go down. And that too, now this is also one more important point. Uh, we will have to allocate it on the basis of the number of units received by the consignee because he would have cleared those goods which he has received, right? So goods which he has not received needs no allocation. So that is why this 18,000 is incurred on how many units? How many units to be incurred that 18,000 on? That would have been incurred only on 400 units because he would have received only these 400 units. He would have cleared only these 400 units. So 18,000 rupees is relating to these 400 units. So when you're allocating consignees direct expenses, always remember that will be allocated only to the units received by the consignee. So whatever units are received by the consignee, only for those units we will have to allocate the consignee's direct expenses, and in this case it is 400. I hope you have followed this. So 18,000 2,250. Done. That's it. Calculate the value of stock after this. 82,500. And this is 84,750. So this will be credited in this account. We will have to write on the credit side. Buy consignment stock. Write the working note references. The total stock you can write 82,500 plus 84,750. It's 1,67,250. 1,67,250. I hope this is clear with all of you. We have written the stock. We have written the commission, all done. Now just total up and calculate the profit or loss in consignment. Nine lakh 48,500 is the debit side total, and credit side it is going to be 984,750. So there's a loss, right? Or there's a gain. Credit side is more. So profit and loss account. It's just like the profit and loss account. So that's a gain. Credit side is more. How much is the profit? 36,250. 940, 984, 750. To profit and loss account. So the balancing figure, it is 36,250. Done. That's it. This is our consignment account, a very comprehensive question. We also have to do the consignees account next. So we'll do the consignees account as well. So you're doing this in the books of the consigner itself. Don't get confused. It's consignees account in the books of the consigner. So still consigner's perspective only. The perspective is of the consigner itself. We are preparing this consignees account to calculate the amount of settlement and all. The consignees account, the name of the consignee is Rawat here. So Rawat's account. You just have to look at the above entries and post them over here. That's all you have to do. First, whatever you have credited up, you will debit it over here. So to consignment account. This was the sales entry. Bracket you can write sales. 7,35,000. Whatever you have debited above will be the lag, is it? I hope the lag problem is solved now. Thank you, Pratika, for telling me. So, to consignment account, 7,35,000. That's the sales. Whatever I credited over here, I'm debiting. And whatever I debited in the above account, I will credit it over here by consignment account. This is for the expenses. You can just write in the brackets expenses. You don't have to write the bifurcation again. 50,000 by consignment. This is for commission. $73,500. Done. Now, whatever the balance is there, you have to calculate it. What's the balancing figure? The total is 7,35,000. Minus 50,000 minus 73,500. It's 6,11,500. Just check if they have mentioned anything. Have we settled the account? Has the consignee given us any money? They have not mentioned anything, right? So what we do is we write by balance carried down. 6,11,500. If that given that the amount is settled and all, you will write over here by cash or by bank account, you will be writing. If the question is silent, you write by balance carried out. Sometimes in the institute questions, if you see the ICA material, even if they don't give anything, here the institute ends up writing by bank. So they write by bank account. That is also okay, but they give a note immediately after that. They say that it is assumed that the amount is paid by the consignee to the consignor. That is why we have written by bank. I hope you understood what I just said. Instead of writing by balance carried down, here the institute writes by bank account for the balancing figure and gives a note saying that, boss, we are assuming that the consignee has made the payment of whatever amount he had to pay. We are assuming that he has made the payment. So here I'm not making any such assumptions. They solve like this also in some questions. Some questions they do it like that. So you don't have to assume. So this is a typical 10-mark question, long question, but 10-mark question for your exams. Now, one more question that I'm going to do is this one. Important question. Kids find this a little difficult every time, and it's a important question from the exam perspective. Again, picked up from your ICA textbook itself. Vikram Milk Foods Company Limited of Vikrampur sent to Sundar Stores, Sonepuri, 5,000 kgs of baby food packed in 2010s of net weight 1 kg and 6,000 packets of net weight half kg for sale on consignment basis. The consignee's commission was fixed at 5% of the sale proceeds. The cost price and selling price of the products were as under. Cost price is given 10 rupees per kg, 1 kg 10. Half kg packet it is 6 rupees. Selling price is 15 and 7 rupees is the for half kg packet it's 7. The consignment was booked on freight to pay basis. This is what makes the question very important. The freight is on to pay basis. What this means is the receiver will pay the freight. Generally, freight is paid by the person who is sending the goods. Okay, whoever sends the goods will have to pay the freight generally. But in our case, when they say to pay basis, in this case, it means the person who is receiving the goods, whoever receives the goods, will be paying the freight. So to pay means I'm loading the goods, boss, but I'm not making the payment. I'll say to pay basis. ಇನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಹಣ payment ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ. When you're receiving the goods, it will be whoever is receiving the goods will make the payment of freight. That is what it is meant. So who will pay in this case in our consignment business? Who's receiving the goods? Who receives the goods in the case of the consignment business? The consignee receives the goods. So the consignee makes the payment of the freight. The consignee makes the payment of the freight. And freight charges came to 2% of the selling value. So the freight charges is calculated in this question as 2% of the sales value of the goods. One case containing 51 kg tons was lost in transit, and the transport courier admitted a claim of 450. So that's insurance. So one case of 51 kg tons was lost, and we got insurance of 450 rupees for it. At the end of the first half year, the following information is gathered from the account sales sent by the consignee. Account sales is the document sent by the consignee to the consigner, telling him what is happening with his goods. Sale process is 1,500 1 kg tons, 4,000 half kg packets. Store rent and insurance is 600 rupees. Find out the value of closing inventory and consignment. We will do it later. First, they have said show the consignment account and consignee's account in the books of Vikram Milk Foods Company Limited, assuming that the consignee had paid the amount due from him. Here, it's clearly given that the consignee has made the payment. So in the consignee's account, that balancing figure, whatever you get, right, you have to write buy back for that. Okay, fine. We will do the consignment account quickly. So this is in the books of the consigner. Who is the consigner? Vikram Milk Foods is the consigner. Consignment with Sundar Stores. Sonepuri. Okay. Now, two goods sent on consignment. Sir, a very important doubt that we get while we're solving this question is the selling price to be treated as the invoice price of the goods? So they have given the selling price in the question. Should I treat this as invoice price of the goods? The answer is no. They should mention over here that the goods were sent at selling price. They have to mention it like that, okay? Otherwise, no, we don't treat it as invoice price. We treat it as the goods are sent at cost itself. We have to take the cost itself. Invoice price is not given in this question. Selling price is given here, but that is for the calculation of sales, for that freight, for all of that, we need the selling price. So for that, they have given. It's not the invoice price, remember. So here, goods sent on consignment, we have two types of goods, 1 kg tins and half kg packets. So how many 1 kg tins were sent? 2000 tins of net weight 1 kg. So 2000 tins were sent. And what is the cost per tin? 10 rupees. So this is going to be 20,000. Half kg packets, how many were sent? 6,000. And what is the cost price? 6. So this is equal to 36,000. So total 56,000 is the cost of the consigned goods. 56,000 rupees. Now they have next what have they told? Freight is not paid by the consigner, it's paid by the consignee itself. There is no other consigner's expense, nothing, no consigner's expenses at all. Consignee expenses, that is freight, and there is a loss as well. We'll have to record that. We'll have to record the sales as well. There's a sale of some unit. So we'll write all of that. We'll write the sales first, then we'll go to the loss valuation and all. Or we can calculate the freight. In fact, we'll calculate the freight first and then we will write. So very simple calculation for freight. You don't have to do a working note. You can do it over here only. The consignee is paying the freight. What is the name of the consignee? Sundar Stores. So two Sundar Stores. See this. What have they spoken about freight? How is the freight calculated? Have they given the amount of freight directly? No. They've not given the amount of freight directly. They've said freight charges came to 2% of the selling value. So 2% of the selling value of the goods. Selling value of the goods. So whatever was consigned, how many units were consigned totally? 2001 kg tons was consigned. 6,000 half kg packets were consigned, right? So you have to calculate the sales price of this. Selling value means sales price. You have to calculate the sales price of the total goods. On that, you have to put 2%. I hope everyone is understanding. So they've said 2% of selling value. 2% of selling value. So first you have to calculate the selling value of the goods, whatever is loaded into the truck. You have to calculate the selling price of those goods. And on that, you will have to calculate 2%. Very simple. Very, very simple. So the selling value of 2000 tons, 1 kg tons is 2000 into 10. Sorry, 2000 into 15. Selling value, sir, not cost price, selling value. So 2000 into 15 plus 6,000 half kg packet, 6,000 into 7. That is the selling value of the half kg packets. Add both of it on that 2%. That's it. Done. So here only I'll do the calculation. 2% of selling value they have said. So the selling value is going to be rupees 15 into 2000 tens plus rupees 7 into 6,000 packets, right? This is the selling value on that 2%. Simple. Fifteen into 2,000, 30,000 plus 7 into 6,000 into 2%. What is the answer you get? 1,440. This is the total commission payable, or rather freight payable. This is the freight, not commission, freight. payable by the consignee. Consignee has paid it. Next, write the sales by Sundar Stores. I hope all of you have understood the calculation of the freight over here. 2% of selling value. I hope you have understood it. Put yes on the chat box so that I get some information that you're listening and not sleeping. Okay. Next, we will have to write the sales. Sales, how many units has he sold? 1,500 1 kg tons, 4,000 half kg packets. Yes, wonderful. 1,502, 15 rupees is the sales price. 22,500. Half kg packets, how many has he sold? 4,000 into 7 rupees is the sales price. 28,000. Total sales price is going to be 22,500 plus 28,000. 3,500. This is the total sales price of the goods sold, whatever, not total sales price of the consigned goods, it is the sales value. Whatever was sold, that ka sales value. $50,500. Next, what else do we need, sir? There's a loss, so we'll have to value the loss. The insurance claim is also there. Store rent and insurance charges is also there. There's also consignees expenses. You could add it to this 1,440 itself, or you can write it separately also. There was some calculation for that freight, so I've written it separately. This is also expense, store rent, it's payable to the consignee, 600. Okay. Next, we will do the valuation of the loss. Working note 1, valuation of loss. So what have we lost? We have lost 1 kg tons. How many? 51 kg tons, right? 51 kg tons was lost. 51 kg tons have been lost. We have to value it. Very important, this valuation. Pay proper attention when I do it. There is insurance claim also. That freight allocation, many of you find it difficult. So please be with me when I do it. Okay. So first we have to write the cost of the goods lost. So 1 kg tons were lost. See the cost of those tons. Each ton was costing 10. So 50 tons are lost. So 10 into 50. How much is that? 500. Then we have to allocate the expenses. There's no consignors expenses in this question at all. Consignors expenses not there at all. So directly go to the consignees expense. But sir, this was lost in transit. Valuation of loss in transit, right? This was lost in transit as per the question. We lost it in the transit. Should I allocate the consignees expenses or not? It is lost in transit. Should I allocate the consignees expenses or not? Generally, the answer is no to this because consignee has not received the goods. Consignee has not received the goods. So why would you allocate his expenses for the goods that is not received by him at all? He has not received those goods at all. So he wouldn't have incurred any expenses on these goods at all. So we don't allocate the consignee's expenses generally. But in this case, there is an exception. Why is there an exception? Okay, so the exception is because while you paid the freight, who pays the freight? The consignee pays the freight, right? So when the consignee paid the freight, consignee paid the freight on everything that was put into the tempo, truck, in the carrier, whatever that lorry or truck in which the goods were being transported, right? Freight is the amount of transportation charges. That is known as freight. So he paid that freight on all those goods which was loaded. See here, we calculated selling value of all the goods we considered. 2001 kg tons were there, 6,000 half kg packets were there. This includes everything. So even those goods lost in transit, it is out of these 2000 tons only. In this 2000 tons only, even that 50 tons will come, which is lost in transit. So consignee is paying expenses on that also, freight on that also. I hope you are understanding. So generally, how the freight calculation works is you have a big truck, you are taking some space in that truck for your goods. So whatever is loaded in that truck, right? On that basis, you pay the freight. So even on these 51 kg tins, we end up paying freight. Remember that. Are you all following? Are you all with me? So even on this 51 kg tons, the consignee would have incurred the freight expenses. So we will have to allocate the freight expense relating to these 51 kg tons also. And the calculation also is different over here. You can't do directly the freight calculation. Proportionately, you can't do it like we normally do it, right? Consignees freight expenses. Only freight I'm allocating. Store rent anyway is not allocatable. So if there was any clearing charges, if there was any other expenses, should I allocate that? The answer is no. If there is any clearing or unloading, we don't allocate all of that. Only freight on to pay basis, if it is there, only that is to be allocated. Remember that much. Only freight paid on to pay basis will have to be allocated. So this we will allocate. Freight expense. And we don't do it on proportionate basis because that gets very complicated. You can do it, but it's a long equation. So logical, common sense is what have they told about freight? What is freight? Freight is 2% of selling value, right? So calculate the selling value of these 50 units, multiply it with 2%. You are trying to calculate this freight on these 50 units. No. So calculate the selling value of these 50 units and multiply it with 2%. You will get the freight amount. So what is the selling value of 50 units? 15 rupees. These are 1 kg tons. So 15 rupees into 2%. You will get the freight value. That is 15 rupees. That's it. 515. This is the value of loss. Value of loss is 515 rupees. Have we got some insurance claim? Have I got some insurance claim here? Did I get some money from the insurance company? So there was no insurance company, but the truck guy only was paying. The carrier was only paying some money, right? How much did he pay us? He's paying us 450 rupees. So 450 rupees is the claim. That is also insurance claim only. We call it as insurance only. Although the insurance company is not paying, the transporter is paying. Transporter itself has insurance facility also. 450 rupees. So how much is my loss that I will have to bear transferred to my P&L? The balance. This is our loss. This will be debited to our P&L. 515 fully is not our loss. And that 450 rupees is being borne by the consignor or the transporter. So the transporter will have to bear that 450. 65 rupees remaining is my loss. So that will be debited to my P&L account. So here on the credit side, by transporter, you can also write insurance company here, but they have clearly mentioned it's the transporter who is making the payment. So 450 rupees by P&L 65 rupees. This is working note 1. I hope everyone has understood this. A very important point over here is that allocation of freight. One, why am I allocating consignee's expense? That question you should get in your mind. He's not received the goods yet. Why am I allocating consignee's expenses then? I'm allocating it because it is freight. Remember this. And freight is paid generally by the consignor, but in this case, it is being paid by the consignee. And it is paid on two pay basis. Two pay basis means the calculation of freight happens on the number of goods loaded. So in the truck, how much ever goods are loaded, on that the calculation of freight happens. The person who pays here is the consignee. Okay. Generally, it is paid by the consignor itself. When we are loading the goods itself, I make the payment and I load the goods. But in this case, the calculation is done, freight is this much, but the amount I will not pay, the consignee will pay. Whoever is receiving the goods will pay. So the even on the goods lost, you end up paying freight. So we have to allocate the freight expenses even for the goods lost. And incidentally, it is paid by the consignee, so it gets allocated. Then there is stock we have to see, hidden adjustment. It will not be directly given in the question. You have to calculate, is there stock or not? See, 2001 kg tins were sent. In that 50 was lost, right? 50 was lost on the way. So 1950 will be received by the consignee. He has sold 1500. So there is a stock of 450 tins. Okay, 450 tins stock is there. And same thing, same calculation you can do for the packets also, half kg packets. 6000 was sent. No loss. We have not lost any packets. 4000 has been sold. So 2000 packets are still left. So we have to value the stock. Both the stock will value. Here also now, the important calculation is that freight itself, nothing else. Everything else is easy. Only that freight calculation. I'm doing this question purely for that freight. So understand that freight concept properly here. Calculation of value of stock. I'm going to value half kg packets and 1 kg tins together. Like I'm going to have two columns for it. Six thousand tins were sent, 50 were lost in transit, and how many were sold? Sorry, not 6,000, right? 2,000 were sent, and that 50 was lost in transit. And how many were sold? 1,500 was sold, right? So it's going to be 451 kg tons. Packets, 6,000 packets were sent, no loss. 4,000 was sold, so 2,000 units are in stock. Okay. Now, first we will write the cost. Sir, invoice price is not given, so I write the cost. Cost of this stock. So it is 450 into 10, and this is 2,000 into 6. 4,500. This is 12,000. Then we have to add that freight. Only freight is to be added, not no other consignors expense, store rent is there. That is not to be added, that's indirect. So only freight paid by the consignees, that is to be added. Remember again, no sitting and allocating it proportionately and all, no proportionate. Directly you can do what is freight calculation. How are they doing the freight calculation? They've clearly said what is the freight calculation. It is 2%. What? How much percent? 2% of what? Selling value. 2% of selling value. So now we have to calculate the selling value of these goods and 2% of that. 2% of selling value of the goods. So selling value of 450 units, or here 450 units is 450 into, this is 1 kg tons, it's 15 rupees. 450 into 15 into 2%, 135 rupees. And this is 2% of selling value of 2,000 packets. That's just 7 rupees. 280 rupees. I hope all of you have understood this calculation. That's it. Calculate the value of stock. This is 4,635, 12,000, 1280. And here, by consignment stock, add up both. You have to put the answer in the chat box. Put the answer in the chat box, please. What's the addition? What's the total? Waiting. Yes. 16,915, and calculate the profit or loss as well. 67,930 is the total. What's the profit? I wrote commission, I did not write. What's the commission percentage they have said? Write the commission. 10%, is it? Five percent. Simple. 5,500 into 5%. How much is the commission? 2,525. And what is the profit? No, no, no. We calculate. We do not write the commission, right? 7,365 to P&L 7,365. Okay, remember some things while you're doing these questions in the exams. In the consignment account, what and all you have to write. First, the value of the goods sent on consignment. Second, you have to write the cost of the goods one. Second one, consignor's expenses, if any. In this question, it's not there. Consignor's expenses. In this question, it's there. Third, you will have to, yes. Yes. Third, you will have to see the sales. Fourth, commission, stock, loss, if any. So these are the points you have to remember, okay? 7,365 done. Okay, consignee's account is easy. I'll let you do that. There's no complication. Just posting this and Raj, balancing figure you have to write by bank. You have to write by bank for the consignee's account at the end because they have said, assuming that the consignee had paid the amount due from him. That is why at the end you have to write by bank. You can try that. You can do that on your own. It's easy. Okay, so this is about your important question. Solve this. I mean, I hope you understood it. I hope all of you have done it with me. So you don't have to solve this again. This is enough from the exam perspective. Solved one very important question from the exam perspective. Do the consignee's account later. After the after I give you the break, during the break, you can sit and do the consignee's account. Now, one more question I want to do is this very important question has come for the exams. If you sit and do the old papers, you will find this question again and again and again, especially the earlier attempts, right? The first 4 or 5 attempts, I think 2 or 3 times this question has come, a similar question has come from for your exam. So let's do this question. It's the last attempt for consignment, so we never know. They might ask their favorite question again in the exam. So I don't want to risk it. I will just go through this question quickly. I'll do the working notes. You do the accounts later. I'll just do the working notes in the class now. Shall I? Ready? Shall I read the question? Anand of Bangalore consigned to Raj of Pune goods to be sold at invoice price, which represents 125% of the cost. So they have told that Anand is the consignor, Raj is the consignee. Yeah, it is there in the RTPs also. So the goods are being sold at 125% of the cost. So goods are to be sold, the invoice price. So the consignor is telling the consignee that boss, sell the goods at invoice price. I will tell you the invoice price. The invoice price is 125% of cost. So if the cost is 100, the invoice price is 125. So this is what they mean in the first sentence. Okay. Raj is entitled to a commission of 10% on sales at invoice price and 25% of any excess realized over the invoice price. So there are 2 types of commission here. One is the ordinary commission and the other one is the overriding commission. So they have said Raj will get 10% ordinary commission on whatever sales he does. And if he's generating anything over and above that invoice price, right? We are telling him an invoice price also. If he's selling at a higher price, he will be getting some overriding commission also. The expenses on freight and insurance incurred by Anand were 12,000. So this is consignor's expenses. The account sales received by Anand shows that Raj has effected sales amounting to 1,20,000 in respect of 75% of the consignment. This is the sales. The value of sales is 1,20,000. He has sold 75% of the consigned goods. Fine. His selling expenses to be reimbursed were 9,600. Fine. This is selling expenses of the consignee. So consignee selling expenses, consignee's expenses is 9,600. Fine. 10% of the consignment goods of the invoice value. See, what is interesting about this question? Why does this question become very important? Why is it different than the other questions? It's different than the other question because this question is not complete in the sense that all the facts are not given directly to us. They don't tell us everything. There's one very important missing figure in this question, which is what is the value of the goods sent? What is the cost of the goods sent? You're saying there's invoice price in this question. So tell me the invoice price, tell me the cost. They don't give you directly in these questions. They haven't told us the cost or the invoice price of the goods. They just said that the invoice price represents 125% of cost. They've told percentage terms. But how many units were sent? What was the cost of those goods? What was the invoice price of those goods? Not given. So consignor is sending some goods. How many units were sent? Not given. What is the value of those goods? Not given. They directly tell us sales is there, 1,20,000 is sales. They're telling selling expenses there, consignor's expenses there. And then now they're telling loss also. 10% of consignment goods of the invoice value of 15,000 were destroyed in fire at the Pune godown, and the insurance company paid 14,000 net of salvage. So Raj remitted the balance in favor of Anand. So this is in consignee's account. Okay, we'll do that. So that is a very important. What I was telling you earlier. That is what makes this question very important or interesting. That the value of the consigned goods is not given in the question. We will have to take some clue from the question, and we will only have to calculate it. We'll have to take some hint, some clue in the question, hidden in the question, and we will have to calculate. So what is that clue? So many of you take the wrong thing as a hint. It's not a hint, but you consider that to be the hint. That is where you go wrong. What you consider as the hint is you take that this one sales account sales showed received by Anand shows that Rajesh affected sales amounting to 1,20,000 in respect of 75% of the consignment. You take that as the hint. That's not the hint. You can't say, sir, 75% is 1,20,000. So 100% is how much? I will calculate like that. No, sales price is not relevant. What am I calculating? I am calculating the invoice price of the goods consigned. I want to calculate the invoice price of the consigned goods. This is the sales value. Sales value can be different than the invoice price. You're paying overriding commission also over here. So he can sell it at a higher price also. No. I hope you're getting it. So that's not the hint. The hint is this. 10% of the consignment goods of the invoice value of 15,000 were destroyed in fire at the Pune godown. So 10% of the goods is destroyed and the invoice value of the 10% is 15,000. So I can calculate the invoice value of the whole goods. Are you all getting this? Are you all understanding the clue? So we have 10% invoice value is 15,000. Take that as the base. Calculate the value of the 100% of the goods, invoice value of 100% of the goods. You get the invoice value of the goods. Then you can calculate the cost also because you know the relationship between invoice price and cost because they've given, right? Invoice price represents 125% of the cost. So we can calculate that. So all that can be done. So that's the most important key. Okay, we will start working note 1. I'm going to do the working notes first. So can we do the working notes first in the exam? Yes, you can. Only rule with working notes is that you have to do all the working notes together and the answer should be together in one place. So that is the only rule. You can do it however you want. You can do the working notes first. You can do the answer first anyway. So in this question, it's better you do the working notes first, according to me, because you can't start the question, you can't start the consignment account, you can't start your answer without the working notes because you have to write two goods sent on consignment first. That value itself is not there. So first I will do this calculation of invoice price, cost, and loading. of the consigned goods. Of consigned goods. So here I can calculate the invoice value first. See, I'll repeat this. 10% of the consigned goods is lost, and the value of the 10% is how much? 15,000. The value of the 10% of the consigned goods which is lost, it's 15,000. So the value of 100% of the consigned goods is how much? Cross multiplication, right? So you have 10% is 15,000, 100 is how much? 1 lakh 50,000, right? 15,000 into 100 divided by 10. 1 lakh 50,000 is the invoice value of the goods. Simple. I hope everyone has followed this much. Now you can take this as the base and calculate the cost because they have given what is the relationship between cost and invoice price. What have they told over here? They have told that invoice price represents 125% of the cost. So I've already calculated the invoice price. 125 is 1,50,000. This is the invoice price. I have calculated the invoice price. If the invoice price is 125, the cost is 100 because I've said invoice price represents 125% of the cost. So if the invoice price is 125, cost is 100. So here you can calculate the cost again through cross multiplication. 1,50,000 into 100 divided by 125. What is the cost you get? 1,20,000. Therefore, loading also you calculate and keep it ready. Loading on consigned goods. How to calculate the loading? What is the formula for loading? Loading is nothing but the difference between invoice price and cost price. So invoice price is 1,50,000. Cost price is 1,20,000. So what is loading? Loading is going to be 30,000 rupees. Okay, done. First working note done. Here we have calculated the invoice price. We have calculated the cost of the consigned goods. We've calculated the loading as well. So all three, whatever we need to start the consignment account, we have calculated and we have kept it ready. Okay. Next, we will do all the working notes first. What else do we have here? We have to calculate the commission. There is also loss, right? So we can do the. We'll finish off with the loss calculation first. Loss calculation, we'll finish first. Calculation, you can do the commission calculation also first. There's no rule that you have to do this only first. Calculation of loss. Where is the loss? Is it in transit or is it in the consignees go down? We lost, we destroyed in fire at the Pune go down. So it is consignees go down. Consignees go down. So they have given the value already, no, sir. Why are you calculating it? They've already told what is the value of the goods lost. They have only told you. Why are you simply calculating again? What they have told is the invoice price of the goods. But loss is always valued at cost plus allocated expenses. Remember, we have to take the cost of the goods and we have to add the proportionate expenses and all. So we don't take it at invoice price. So don't take it directly at the invoice price. Don't take 15,000 as the value of the loss. That's the invoice price of the goods lost. So we will have to calculate it. 10% is lost, right? So cost of the goods lost. Do we know the cost of the whole goods? We have already calculated. What is the cost of all the goods? 1,20,000 is the cost of all the goods. We calculated in working note one, right? 1,20,000 into 10%. Are you all following? Are you all with me? 12,000. This is the cost of the goods lost. So we have to add any expenses allocatable to this. See if there are any expenses. There was consignors expenses, right? So how much is the consignor's expense over here? The expense on freight and insurance incurred by Anand is 12,000. Into 10%. 12,000 is on all the goods. Don't add 12,000 completely. That's on all the goods. You have to allocate only for this 10%. Whatever 10% was lost, only for that 10%. Next, consignees expenses. So consignees expenses should I allocate because it's lost in this go down. If there's any direct expense, we have to add it. Remember, it's lost in consignees go down. Consignee has received these goods. So if there's any direct expenses, we have to add it. So his selling expenses is what they have given. So we don't add this. Selling expenses is not to be added. Done. That's it. The value of losses 13,200. How much is the insurance company paying us? What's the amount that the insurance company is paying us? There's insurance claim over here, right? The insurance claim is 14,000. Insurance company paid 14,000. So the loss was only 13,200 according to us, but insurance company is paying more than that. So what do? We have made a profit here, right? Generally, loss is a loss. We have to make a loss if there's a fire, we have lost some goods. But in this case, we are making a gain. So profit transferred to P&L. We will have to credit the P&L and we'll have to debit this account. How much? 800. 800 profit we have made. We have not made a loss. We have made a profit. So it will not come on the credit side. It will come on the debit side of the consignment account. In the consignment account, when you're writing, you have to write it on the debit side and you'll have to credit the P&L. I hope everyone has understood this. So we are receiving more money than the value of the loss. Okay. Next, we will have to we will have to calculate the commission. So working on 3, commission calculation. So we have two types of commission in this question, ordinary commission and overriding commission. So ordinary commission is simple. What have they told about ordinary commission? 10% on sales at invoice price. Not very simple also. 10% on sales at invoice price is what they have given, ordinary commission. What does this mean? How to interpret the sentence? So when they say like this, 10% on sales at invoice price, they're saying you're paying him ordinary commission on the invoice price of the goods sold. That is, if the goods were sold at invoice price, right? He sold at some XYZ price now. That's not relevant. Ordinary commission I will pay to him on the invoice price. If he sold the goods, if he had sold these goods at invoice price, whatever value you get, on that I will pay 10%. I hope you're understanding. So it doesn't matter at what price he is sold now. I will pay him ordinary commission at this point. Whatever sales he's made, I'm not going to pay him ordinary commission on that. No, I'm going to pay ordinary commission at 10% on the invoice price of those goods sold. So if you had sold those goods at invoice price, how much money we would have earned, right? On that, I will pay ordinary commission. I hope you have understood this. So that is what it means by sales at invoice price. You can also read it as invoice price of the goods sold. Invoice price of the goods sold. So here, sales at invoice price will be, they have given the actual sales. The actual sales is how much? 1,20,000. But we don't give it at 1,20,000. We have to calculate what is the invoice price of the goods sold. So what is the total invoice price of the goods sent? 1,50,000 was sent. So sales at invoice price is 1,50,000 is the total, 100%. He's not sold all the units. He has sold only 75% of those units. So 1,50,000 into 75%. How much do you get? 1,12,500. This is the sales at invoice price. 1,12,500. Therefore, OC will be, ordinary commission will be 1,12,500 into 10%. 11,250. I'll repeat what we did. The ordinary commission is not paid on actual sales. Actual sales is 1,20,000. Actually, he's selling it at 1,20,000 over here. They've said the account sales received by Anand shows that Raja's effective sales amounting to 1,20,000. But no, I'm not selling. I'm not paying ordinary commission on actual sales. I am paying ordinary commission on the invoice price of the goods sold. They've said it's 10% on sales at invoice price. So if the goods were sold at invoice price, whatever value you get, no, on that 10%. So which is 1,12,500 into 10%, 11,250. And next, ORC. What have they told about the ORC, overriding commission? 25% of any surplus, excess. Excess means surplus. So if he has sold it at a higher price than the invoice price, we had told him to sell it at the invoice price, but if he is selling it at a higher price, on that value, we give him the overriding commission. So there is surplus over here. So we know what is the actual sales minus sales at invoice price. So he has sold it at 1,20,000. But if he had sold it at our price of those goods is only 1,12,500. That is, the invoice price is only 1,12,500. He sold it at an extra price, additional price. How much is the surplus amount? 7,500. We've already calculated this, right? 7,500 is the surplus. On this, we will have to pay ORC. Again, don't stop here. Many people do this mistake of just stopping over here. This is surplus. On this, we have to calculate 25% for ORC. So 7,500 into 25%. 1,875. Total commission 11,250 is the ordinary commission, plus 1,875 is the overriding commission. The total commission is how much? 13,125. 13,125 is the total commission payable to the consignee. Over. Last is the stock valuation. Valuation of stock. Sir, how much percentage of stock is left? So we had sent 100% of the stock. Unit wise, we can't calculate over here because units are not given. So we will have to do it in terms of percentage. 100% was sent, 75% has been sold. Don't stop there. 10% has been lost in the consignee go down. So how much is remaining? Stock means remaining. How much is remaining? How much percentage is remaining? Only 15%, not 25, it's 15%. You have to exclude that loss to stock, that is lost goods, that is not with us, right? So goods lost, you have to exclude it. So how much is remaining with us? It's only 15% of the goods. So 100% was sent. In that 10% is lost and consignees go down. 75% is sold. So 15% is remaining. And here invoice price is given. So invoice price will be considered. Invoice price of the stock. So total invoice price of the total goods. Working note one we did. No. What is the invoice price of all the goods? It's 1,50,000. 1,50,000 into 15%. 22,500 is the invoice price of the stock. To this, I will add any expenses. So we have proportionate expenses, consignees expenses there. So total consignees expense is how much? What is the total consignees expense? The total consignees expenses 12,000. Don't add everything. Don't add 12,000 also. Only 15% is to be added. 12,000 into 15%. We are just allocating the expenses relating to that stock. Consignees expense I will not add because it is this one, no? Selling expenses. That's not to be added. 22,500 plus 1,800, 24,300. This is the value of stock. There is also in this case we have inventory reserve also. We have to create something called as inventory reserve. Whenever you're valuing the stock at invoice price, at a price higher than the cost price, invoice price, you will have to create a reserve. And this is the loading element on the stock. So loading element on stock. That is what we mean by inventory reserve. So what is the total loading? The total loading was 30,000 rupees. On the consigned goods, the total loading was 30,000 rupees. This is not inventory reserve. Don't create inventory reserve for 30,000. This is on the total consigned goods. Do we have everything left in stock? We don't have everything left in stock, right? So inventory reserve is only for inventory. So 30,000 is the total loading. Inventory reserve is loading for inventory, stock. So 30,000 into how much percentage is remaining? 15% is remaining. So 30,000 into 15%, which is equal to 4,500. Done. That's it. So now we can do the quickly put the numbers into the consignment account and we are done. I'll quickly do it. We have everything ready, all the numbers, all the calculations ready. We just have to pull the numbers into the consignment account and calculate. consignment account. You can write consignment with so and all of that. I'm just writing the quickly. I'm writing numbers. Two goods sent on consignment. Sir, if invoice price is given, I have to write invoice price. Here it is given. We have calculated it working note one. 1,50,000 is the invoice price of the consigned goods. We have to remove the loading immediately by goods sent on consignment. So the loading is to be credited because it's written at invoice price, right? So loading is credited. How much is the loading element? That also we calculated in working note one, 30,000 rupees. So only the cost is to be net debited over here. Then consignor's expenses is there, to cash given 12,000. Then consignee's expenses also is there. What is the name of the consignee? Raj, to Raj account. Selling expenses, right? So write that also to Raj account 9,600. Both of this is given in the question. Sales is there by Raj. Sales is how much? 1,20,000 is the sales. Then you have now whatever workings you've done, you can write it. First, the loss. Insurance company, by insurance company. Insurance company is giving me how much? 14,000 rupees the insurance company is giving me. So by insurance company, 14,000. To P&L, not by P&L over here. I am doing to P&L because it is an abnormal gain. It's not an abnormal loss. It's an abnormal gain over here. We have received more money than required from the insurance company, 800 rupees. So I've written it on the opposite side. Have you guys understood this? Have you all followed this? If it's loss, I write by P&L. I write by abnormal loss. Now here it is abnormal gain. Okay, commission to Raj account 13,125. Stock is there. Buy consignment stock 24,300. There's also inventory reserve. Inventory reserve will be debited to this account. $4,500. Done. Now we have to calculate the profit or loss. Please calculate and tell me what is the profit or loss you get. And then you can do the consignee's account on your own. Can you please tell me the profit or loss? It's a loss or it's a profit, right, Omkar? It's a loss, right? Yes. So 1,725. What's the total you get? 1,50,000 plus 12,000 plus 9,600 plus 800 plus 13,125 plus 4,500. What's the total? What's the total? 1,90,025. And it is a loss. Yes. By P&L account, it's a loss of 1725. Fantastic. I hope everyone has followed this. Very important question from the exam perspective. We have done everything over here. Invoice price is there. We've done loading. We've calculated it. Working notes. That was what was important. Inventory reserve is covered. There was gain on this one accident that we did. Insurance claim was there. Everything is there in this question. If you understand this question, almost everything in the consignment account is covered over here 100%. So I hope you have followed it. Now, some things, some important tips relating to consignment before I close it is one, focus on this consignment, consigning the account. Don't do silly mistakes. Do working notes. Do all the calculations properly. Write the dates if the dates are given. In these questions, whatever we did, 90% of the questions dates won't be there, but there will be one odd question where the dates will be given. So don't miss the dates. If dates are given, write the dates. So ಕೆಲವೊಂದಕ್ಕೆಲ್ಲ dates ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. They don't give the dates very clearly for all the transactions. What do I have to do? Leave it empty, or you can write the last date, whatever the last latest date is, that you can repeat the same date for all the transactions, or you can just leave it empty. If you don't know some dates, that's okay. But write the dates if it is given in the question. Do the consignees account. Don't forget to do the consignees account. Don't forget to do the working notes. That's it. That's pretty much it. So you can do the problems, simple problems, do something and come, don't leave consignment, right? Okay, I'll stop here. I think we have to stop at 8:30. I was supposed to stop 3 minutes late. That's okay. I will continue the session. Next session is lined up at 10 a.m., I guess. So I'll see you at 10 a.m. See you. Take your break. Do the consignees account and then take a break. If there's any other question, you can quickly solve in this 2 hours. Okay. See you later.